This could be the year that paid leave becomes a reality in the United States. President Biden is proposing 12 weeks of compensated leave for parents, caregivers, and people who are sick themselves. NBC News political correspondent Ali Vitali breaks down his plan.
Dawn Huckelbridge's first year of motherhood nearly broke her.
I wasn't ready for what I faced.
She couldn't sleep or stop losing weight. But Dawn says she was lucky, able to take time with her newborn and time to heal.
I felt depleted in every way, but what I kept thinking is if it's this hard for me, how hard must it be for all of the women or the people who give birth in this country?
Chris Garcia was his father's caregiver. His employer wouldn't give him more than a few days to be with his ailing dad, 900 miles away.
My dad's having major surgery. He's having a quadruple bypass. I really should be here. And he's like, well, there's nobody to cover your shift.
A few days later, doctors called Chris at work. Chris was forced to give permission to remove his dad from life support by phone.
It took me almost 8 years to be able to deal with the guilt that I felt.
I wonder what having an actual paid leave policy would have done for your situation.
If I had had the policy in place at the time, it would have made a world of difference.
In a recent survey of 41 countries worldwide, only America lacks paid parental leave. Japan and Norway, for example, give new parents more than a year, paid, to be with their babies, while the U.S. gives 0. But a growing number of states, plus D.C. and Puerto Rico, have or will soon have some paid sick or parental leave policy. This year, when the pandemic laid bare the reality that illness can happen anytime, Congress passed emergency paid sick and childcare leave for some workers, but it was only temporary. Now, President Biden is pushing for something more permanent.
No one should have to choose between a job and a paycheck or taking care of themselves and their loved ones.
Biden's plan would guarantee workers 12 weeks of paid leave to care for newborns, aging loved ones, or even themselves after a serious illness. The plan would pay up to $4,000 a month and bolster the lowest paid workers. It's a lofty goal with a hefty price tag. $225 billion over 10 years, according to the White House, paid for by raising taxes on America's wealthiest. But to Dawn, who now works for Paid Leave for All and whose son is now 6, it's a check America can't afford not to pay.
What I think we should have learned over the past year is that at some point in our lives, every single one of us is going to need to give and receive care. We all are one diagnosis away from a crisis.
Ali Vitali joins us now from Washington. Ali, with Mother's Day this Sunday, we certainly have moms on our minds, and you're welcome to our viewers if we just reminded any of you out there that Mother's Day is Sunday. But this proposal goes well beyond new parents. It includes leave for a military deployment, finding safety if you're a victim of sexual assault or domestic violence. What are lawmakers saying about it, and what kind of support does this bill have right now?
Well, first of all, Allison, you outlined why it's so important. They're expanding the definition of care here. When you talk about paid leave, typically, the first thing that people think of is mothers to newborn babies. And of course, that's definitely a key part of this proposal. But it's not the only thing that's relevant here. It's applicable to dads. It's also applicable to people who have to care for elderly parents who might be sick, or even caring for themselves in the variety of ways that you just outlined. So it definitely expands the idea of care, which so many Americans have been faced with the realities of over the course of the pandemic. You heard Dawn talk about it. It's really a reminder that illnesses can happen at any time. And what President Biden has said, and advocates have said for a long time about this, is that instituting a national paid leave policy wouldn't just catch the United States up with the other industrialized countries in the world, but it would also allow Americans to stop having to choose between their paychecks and their loved ones, or their jobs and their own emotional or physical well-being. And that's exactly what the priority is here in the infrastructure plan. Now, just because it seems to make sense on a moral level doesn't mean that this is definitely going to pass. It's part of, as you mentioned, that larger American families push that the Biden administration unveiled last week. They're even just still dealing with the American jobs portion of that, which is the over $2 trillion that encompasses things like more traditional infrastructure as well as other elements of the care economy. This is the second part of that, the $1.8 trillion roughly that Biden unveiled during his address to Congress last week, that focuses more on social wellness programs throughout the country, things like a national paid leave policy, but also universal child care, universal pre-K, other policies like that.
All right, Ali Vitali, thank you so much. You know we always love seeing you, especially on important topics like this. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.